Well, hello everyone. Fancy seeing you all here. What is happening today, everyone? Today I'm gonna do something fun, something that's not supposed to be super difficult because my brain feels kind of fried after this work week. So we're gonna do something that's hopefully not super tricky to do, but more than anything should be a fun thing. Let's get the visual out of the way there. Let's make sure we can run the game. Let's build that. That built just fine. So I've been mentioning for a few streams now that I'm going to be working on the AI a little bit. And today is that day. So we're going to do a little bit of AI sort of content work here in this level that we have going here. Let me actually probably bring down the volume here for this guy. It's called master volume, I think. There we go. There we go. So, oh, before I get too far ahead of myself, do let me know if my audio levels are good, all of that stuff, right? Once or twice I've sort of managed to mess those up. Do let me know if you can hear me all right, if you can hear the music at a reasonable level, all of that good stuff. So, here we are in the level. This is actually or at least it's planned to be the first level in the single player campaign for this game, right? So, this is what you will actually see when you start up the single player campaign. And it's a level that is still a little bit in sort of work in progress. It's sort of getting there. I think the sort of overall geometry for this thing is actually pretty good. And the overall sort of sense of scale and all of that. We have a little bit of a work left to do here on this warehouse that's found here at the end of the level. Over here. But other than that, I think the level is actually kind of coming together pretty nicely, and I don't think we're gonna do like a whole bunch of really big changes to this when it comes to the actual sort of layout of it. Hello, Avich, or is it Avik? Perfect audio levels. That's nice to hear. Do let me know if they somehow become unperfect over the course of the stream. It kind of just feels very wrong to play this game without any sort of audio. So let's just put the audio to like half, and you can sort of hear maybe a little bit of the game audio there in the background. So what we're gonna look at today is actually making it so that you can order people around this level, because that's gonna be a pretty sort of significant part of the single player campaign of this game, is to have AI drivers. Essentially your sort of traveling companions on this road trip that you're doing. Have them be able to drive around the place, right? And currently they can't really do that for a variety of reasons that all have to do with this level here. The level has to sort of be a little bit prepared for the AI to be able to actually drive around it. So you can script an AI agent to drive somewhere, or you can order them around using this radio menu, which you can open here. But we can see that actually we don't have any contacts within range in this level here. So we're gonna have to actually add some contacts for us that we can order around. So technically we could have that mother vehicle over there be sort of one of our buddies, we could contact over radio and ask them to drive somewhere, and they should be able to do that. But there are some technical reasons for why that doesn't work with objects that you just place in the level. Like we can place another one of those guys here. Here we have another one. Still, they don't show up in this menu here, which can be maybe a little annoying. But that is sort of how it works. You have to kind of prepare them a little bit beforehand to actually have them show up. And now I'm stuck on that scout there, of course. So we're gonna do what we did in the other level, where we prepare like a few vehicles. We give them sort of proper sort of call signs on the radio. And then we add like a debug script that we can bring them into this level. Because obviously when you play this in the single player campaign, there's going to be like a mission with some like narrative stuff going on here in the background and things like that. All of that is missing when you just like open the level. Just as a raw level like we did now, without any sort of narrative or really sort of gameplay to speak of, right? So we're gonna look at all of that today, and then we're gonna see if we can actually have some of these guys kind of like semi-intelligently drive around the play space. I think that's kind of everything I have energy for today. I think in the next stream we will start looking at the new crane that I hinted at in last stream. Oh, I actually get stuck on this these objects now here. Oh no. Yeah, the mother vehicle sort of tire model, I'm kind of itching to replace it. You can see that it kind of doesn't really work all that well with these large obstacles. Tires sort of sink into whatever we are sort of driving on quite drastically sometimes. Probably see it here, like if I drive, you can see that the thing kind of like penetrates that rock in a somewhat annoying way. That might be something that we will actually look at today. Like not actually fixing it, but might have some issues because of this. You can see it kind of like sinks into the rock in a way that's not really acceptable, and then it kind of jerks upwards. So that's something that I'll have to look at, but not today. We're just gonna kind of see what we can do with what we have today without hopefully having to implement like a whole lot. Just script a few things. Hey Jake, welcome back. Welcome back. Just getting started here. So right on time. And I guess you still have like a couple of hours until your stream, so if after this stream you guys are still itching for more Gamedev, go check out Jake's stream. And you get some equally excellent indie Gamedev stuff over there. But let's start off by going into the previous level, because there's going to be a few things that we're going to want to basically look at here. So let's do refinery, which is still called refinery blockout, annoyingly. It should just be called refinery, but oh well. Can't be helped. And basically what we're going to want to do first of all is generate the nav mesh for the level. That should be a pretty easy thing to do. You basically just create a nav mesh and then you build it, and it should basically take care of the whole thing on its own. You can see here that we actually have two nav meshes. The reason for that is that the mother vehicle, the big yellow one, like this thing, can only drive in some reasonably open areas, right? So now that we have the light probes built, we have a nice and smooth game frame rate here. I can start messing with this stuff. So we can see here that this is the nav mesh for essentially like most of the vehicles in the game, and we have some roads here that are defined as these sort of, well, they're represented by these red areas. Those are roads. We also have some minor roads that are like represented by this almost like transparent color. Like these colors come from, they're sort of generated by the ID of the area. I'm not super actually happy with this color because it's kind of easy to miss. So I should probably really go in and change this color to something else, but I just haven't done that yet. But anyway, these are minor roads, and then you have the major roads, so they're just the quite simply roads that are these red ones, and the white stuff is traversable space basically. And so when we have these red lines here, they are scored in such a way that the vehicles tend to want to drive on roads, you know, as you would expect them to. Hey Sarah, welcome to the stream. So that's like the main nav mesh, and then we have the mother vehicle nav mesh. So if we flip this off for a bit and switch to this other one, we can see here that actually we have quite a few. Actually, we can turn them on both at the same time probably. I'm gonna lose some frames because this nav mesh rendering is really sort of not very optimized rendering, but whatever. Now we can sort of see like the areas that they differ. You can see that like the mother vehicle needs like quite a bit more space to avoid these trees here, for example. So here we have the area which is sort of like cut out of the mother vehicle nav mesh, but you can still traverse it as the Scout, for example. And the Scout also has like a path here behind these trees. So if we turn that off, we can see that the mother vehicle doesn't have. The mother vehicle also can't fit actually under this monorail track here. So it has to drive all the way, you know, down here to get to the other side. That sort of stuff. So that's why we have two of them, and we're gonna want to have two of them in the other level as well, because in the other level we actually have the tunnel that runs through the mountain, and the mother vehicle actually can't fit in that tunnel at all. It's just an area of the level that it won't be able to drive in. So that's one thing. We're gonna want to create these two nav meshes in the other level. That should be basically just a click of a button, and then we want to actually lay out these roads. And the roads are defined as sort of splines like this. You can see the spline here. We can actually just see if we can have this be drawn even when it's not selected. So if you move this thing around, you can sort of see the spline here updating. And if we move this road around like this, and then we rebake the nav mesh, you will see this red line get sort of pushed off to the side there. I'm not going to do that now though, because that's kind of unnecessary. Then we also have these junctions here, and these are so-called like nav mesh polygon areas. You can sort of see what I've done here for this one, for example. If you have a car that comes sort of driving along this minor road and then it needs to go here, you want to sort of set up this area so that it kind of knows to take a nice turn there, rather than just, you know, going all the way to the junction and then going back here. It's just a way to make some of these places feel a little more sort of natural, the behavior in them. So that's also something that we're gonna want to put into the other level there. And then finally we have the vehicles. So I think these are actually the ones that I'm thinking about. Yeah, test vehicles. So test vehicles is a layer, which you can see here represented by this green icon. But it doesn't have a lightning bolt, which means that it's not auto-loaded. So if we toggle auto-load on, you get a lightning bolt. And let's undo that. So layers that are not auto-loaded are technically part of the level, but you can sort of bring them in as you feel like it. And they're also very handy to have sort of debugging and development things on them, right? So what I have here on this test vehicles layer is probably a script somewhere, isn't it? These are all seem to be actual vehicles. We have a gripper over there. We have a truck. There's some like super sort of block out low poly things. Let's actually just undo all of that nav mesh business so we can get rid of that visual there. There we go. We have a test vehicle. We have a mother. We have another test vehicle. A scout. Oh, there's a scout inside of this shed here. There we go. Scout here. Scout there. And then a gripper truck. Alright, so you basically just sprinkle vehicles on the layer that you want to sort of be spawned when you actually load the layer. The important thing here is that we need to go to the com radio component. We need to enable the radio and we need to give them a call sign. And then you also actually need to give it one of the characters in the game. So that they can actually sort of kind of like respond as if that character was driving the vehicle. It's a little clunky maybe, but that's kind of how it works currently. And if they have this radio enabled and they have a call sign here, this is what will actually then show up there in the radio menu. So we should be able to actually ask them to, hey, like come here, stuff like that. So that should be fun. And then I think we have a script which actually loads it, right? Let's see. Helper scripts. Yeah, so here's just a load test vehicles function, which is marked as dev, which means that we can just run it by going up here into the top menu up here in the game and running the script. And what the script does is it quite simply loads, not that one, but this one. It loads the layer called test vehicles. With a little bit of luck, that should be everything that we need to actually script here to make the other level AI traversable, right? Oh, and then we have a handler here for when the layer is loaded. If we did load the test vehicles layer, then we set the single player avatar to be one of the vehicles, and I think it's basically that one. Yes, that one. So that's also a very handy thing to do. What else? What's the difference between these two guys, by the way? I don't exactly know, but let's quite simply figure out by looking at the level file, because my level files are JSON files. So you can quite simply go into the map refinery and just open up. It's a 55 meg file, so it's kind of heavy. But you can open it up if you want to. And let's have a look here. Nav mesh. Hello, there we go. So that's the main one, and that's the mother one. Let's just diff those two to so that I can see what I did, because this is the first level that actually is sort of properly nav mesh mapped like this. So I'm gonna want to see what sort of changes I made to the mother one. So agent height is 15, agent max climb 1.5, radius is 10. Yeah, that looks all right. Then we have some custom bounds apparently. And then the runtime side, yeah, we register it as you know the nav mesh that the mother is going to want to actually use. So this is all the builder stuff. And we can build the nav mesh by clicking here, but then we need to go to the runtime and actually set this. This is set to be the main one. And then the mother one uses the auxiliary 1. Yeah, auxiliary 1. So you can currently have 5 nav meshes like simultaneously registered. Okay. That looks excellent. Actually, one more thing that we're gonna want to do, and this is probably something that's gonna come slightly later, or like as the last thing probably today. Here we have a gate, and this gate obviously blocks the nav mesh. But if we leave it like this, then vehicles are just gonna be running into the gate, not really realizing that there is a blocker there. So what this thing has is a Or is it maybe as a... Yeah, it's as a child. It has a nav mesh obstacle. Yeah, I don't think these actually are visualized in any way in the editor currently. But you can see here that it has a radius of 6, so it's essentially a circle with a radius of 6 world units. And you can set the obstacle type, hard or soft. Hard obstacles are always avoided, and soft obstacles are avoided, you know, if we cannot find a path without, you know, running into them. And then we have a script, so we can script it when we send this message add to it, we add it to the nav mesh. Same thing with the removal. And then this door probably has... Yeah, like this. Sliding door open. Right. Yeah, then when this thing receives the open signal, it removes those nav meshes. Or nav mesh obstacles. And when we close the gate, we add them back. So that means that if we run this thing... yeah, I don't think I need to save it. I don't think I need to save it. Yeah, exporting this guy takes a little while. It's a pretty big one. Let's get some coffee. Have a sip of coffee in the meantime. And so the idea here is that if we go here to the gates over here, now they're closed, so this path here would be blocked by those obstacles. But if we open the gate, it is sort of cleared. I don't think we can necessarily draw the nav mesh here. No, we need to actually run the game with a specific parameter to be able to do that. We can do that later on to verify this behavior. But that should be all good. That should be all good. So let's do all of this. Let's go to depot and quite simply start plonking in that nav mesh. And it should go here on the base level, or sorry, base layer. And I think I usually just put them basically after the terrain. So let's add a new nav mesh to the thing. Move it there, and we'll call this nav mesh main, like so. And what about the bounds then? Custom bounds, and basically you move the thing around in the level. The transform doesn't have any other sort of importance, except that you give it a bounding box size, and then you move it into place. And that is basically the area that is going to be sort of nav mesh mapped, if you will. 500, is that maybe slightly too much? Not necessarily. Just make it not as tall. Let's move it here. And if we do this now, then we're gonna get nav mesh up here on top of these cliffs. That's not really necessary. So let's start with something like this and see what we get. I think this actually looks pretty good, but it's still actually kind of high up, so I'm gonna make it even just flatter. Yeah, here's that tunnel that I spoke about. So the mother vehicle is never supposed to actually drive to here. So if you have a mother vehicle here on this side of the tunnel and you stand here on the other one and you ask it, hey, come to me, they should respond that, hey, I can find a way there, basically. And we need to make sure that actually is what happens when you do that. Right, and then the nav mesh is a little too wide, or yeah, wide I think is the correct term here, because it's the x-axis. Let's make it a bit narrower. It's maybe a bit too narrow though. Let's try to like cover the area that we need, but not like a whole lot more than that. It seems like a good idea. And here we're covering just enough to cover this terrain here. And here, of course, is a blocker. This allows, or this doesn't allow you to move past this point. So we don't actually need nav mesh here in this area, but I think we're gonna get a little bit of it anyway. And that's not a whole big problem on its own. So we can just leave it like this. And on this side, on this cliff here, on this cliff side, you're supposed to be able to drive basically on everything that looks like it should be drivable. So we're gonna want to have nav mesh covering up the whole thing. Yeah, something like that. And I think we're basically done. I think the sort of default settings for these build parameters here should be good for the main one, and actually builds quite fast because this level is not super large. So you might be wondering, okay, what is up with these holes here? It kind of looks like holes. They're actually not holes. It's just that the visualization, like the triangles, kind of like intersect a little bit. So it might look like it has holes, but if we add a little bit of draw offset to it, we can actually see that, okay, now all of them go away. Except, of course, these things that are actual holes that have this very slight black sort of outline here. They are actual holes. And alright, here we can see that the main nav mesh has a path through the tunnel, so that's good. I'm gonna want to make sure that it also has a path down to the quarry here. That looks good. And we have some areas here that we technically don't really need any nav mesh on, like this thing here, but it's kind of just like a hassle to remove it, so we can just leave it as it is for now. And this building will get, if not redesigned, then at least like, you know, vastly improved at some point. So I'm just gonna have to rebuild the nav mesh at that point. It doesn't really matter. You know, for now I think it looks kind of reasonable. We don't actually have a path around the whole thing now, but that doesn't really matter either. Like if someone drives here, they can just go around the other way, at least for now. That looks quite all right. So this looks pretty good actually. Already. What about this area here? So this is one of the most important areas, I would say, because this is where one of the main sort of objectives of the first single player mission takes place. So this is important that this area has good nav mesh coverage. And here I can actually see that there's a small chance here that you actually manage to get one of the vehicles kind of like stuck on top of this basalt pillar or something like that. And then you leave it there, you switch to another vehicle, and then later on you ask it, hey, come to me, and it will go like, I don't know how to get there because it's technically not sitting on the nav mesh. But my nav mesh runtime system like allows for a little bit of leeway in that sense. You don't need to be sitting directly on top of the nav mesh most of the time to actually find a path. So it remains to be seen if that actually turns out to be an issue or not. We don't have any nav mesh on top of the monorail, which is actually good. We don't really want that. So yeah, this looks good. This looks good already. Before we try this out, though, I was thinking if we would maybe model this road, but actually let's have a little bit of fun with this. Let's see what happens if we don't do that and how well that works. So I think we have a mother vehicle standing here, but it's hidden. And I could run a query to actually find it, but I think it's probably this one. Hidden, yep, there it is. There's a scout one as well. Where's the scout one? It's right there. Alright. And am I actually... I managed to stick the scout the first time I played. I got him stuck on top of the power cell. Yeah, you need to use the unstuckifier. Proper name still pending. I'm gonna show you in a little bit how that works if you haven't found that thing. But yeah, there's a very handy feature to basically get you unstuck, which kind of like reverses your vehicle back along the path that it took. So technically the way it works is that it like records positions in the world that you have moved or you have been at, and then it tries to bring you back. And that also means that like sometimes if you drive off a cliff, like you have a place like this, and you kind of come from here and then you drive off this cliff down here onto this lower level, and you get stuck somewhere here, you use the unstuckifier, kind of like tries to lift you back up there, and sometimes it succeeds and sometimes it doesn't. Usually though it gets you out of the, gets you unstuck so you can continue playing, and that's kind of like the important part. You didn't find it? Oh no. Okay. I'll show you in a little bit how that works. Right. So let's see. Do we have a script here? Control script is that one, but that's not actually the one. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking that this car is probably the one that actually gets assigned to you when you start, and I was trying to figure out how does that work. What is actually setting that? But I found it. It is actually setting itself. So when the message game started is sent, we just set the thing as the single player avatar. That's fine. We can just get quite simply rid of this entire layer, I think. We'll use the more standard test vehicles. No, sorry. Or is it actually test vehicles? Maybe it is test vehicles. Is the name of the thing. Test vehicles. Yeah, test vehicles is the name of the layer. So it's actually pretty alright. We can keep this scout here. The mother vehicle, maybe we'll keep it here as well. We quite simply just make that layer not auto load, and instead we'll add a script to the dev layer, I think. Let's add a script here. Actually, let's make that a Nemo script. Nemo script is sort of like an extended version of a script that has a bunch of extra features. And we'll call this like dev helpers, something like that. And here we can create that same function that we had there in the previous one. So let's do dev void load test vehicles, right, like that, and load layer, and then layer name and blocking. So that would be test vehicles blocking true, yeah, whatever. So if we play this now, I think we're actually gonna be stuck at like the world origin or something. We don't actually have a vehicle assigned to us, so it's gonna look weird. Yeah, there we go. We're underground, looking up, and there are no vehicles around. But if we run the script load test vehicles, we get the vehicle created here. Now this thing doesn't actually set itself to be the avatar here, because it doesn't it doesn't get this game started message, which I guess should be somewhat obvious. But what we can do here instead is do on layer loaded. And if the layer name, the layer name is, I can't write with this microphone in front of me apparently. If the layer name is test vehicles, then we do self set single player avatar level objects, and the layer name is test vehicles, and the vehicle name is scout 1. That should be good. So now if we load this layer, we get assigned this vehicle as our vehicle. And now if we drive around the corner, there should also be the other vehicle waiting for us there. Which is just fine. Hello. Hello to you. Alright, so let's just quite simply enable the radio for these guys. Let's add maybe another vehicle or two as well here. Radio enabled, let's call this just like Scout. And I don't know, Diego is typically the character I use for the Scouts. And what do you say we add like... oh, here's a test vehicle actually. What is this? Let's add the gripper truck to the test vehicles layer. And yeah, this one is here just for scale, but we don't really need it anymore, so let's just remove it. That's fine. But we have this guy, which is standing here, ready to be controlled. So let's call this gripper truck. Let's make Stellar the driver of that one. And then maybe we'll add another Scout here, just to be able to do some fun little tests. Right, so we actually have the Flying Scout mod installed here, so we can have the Flying Scout as a vehicle in the level as well. Obviously, we don't want to do that. We don't want to add any like mod objects into the main game's levels, or we're going to run into issues. Also, the Flying Scout doesn't know how to fly. Like, you can ask it to drive, but it's literally just a Scout with, you know, a jetpack. So it doesn't really know how to use its jetpacks to get around. Unfortunately, maybe that's something that can be added later on. But yeah, you can already mod the game, and the Flying Scout is sort of like an example mod that I've created. As a fun little thing. This thing's actually gonna roll down the hill probably if you put it like that. So let's just make it something like that. And what do we call this? Let's just call it Scout number 2. Roman numerals. And we'll make it the Rowan, and then finally we have the mother, which is sort of like standing here in a slightly tricky position, because it's gonna have to do like a reverse turn to get out of this place. It can't just like drive here, because it's gonna drive into this derailment. It's gonna have to like back up and then drive away. But perhaps more importantly, I think we're gonna have to create that other nav mesh for it to actually be able to, you know, have it drive anywhere. But let's just see what happens if we run this now. But before I do any of the AI stuff, I'm gonna show Jake and anyone else who hasn't seen this how to engage the unstuckifier. So we're gonna spawn into this every time now. So instead of this, I'm gonna do that's called load test vehicles. We can add a shortcut for ourselves here, if I can remember how that actually works. I think it's server run dev script, yeah. Load test vehicles like that. And then we can just quickly run that in the future. So now we can see that, okay, we have some people here to actually contact, right? If we ask the mother, which is over there, hello, move here, it says sure thing. Okay, so does it actually? Oh, we probably need to tell it to use the other nav mesh. Hey, look at that! It is driving. Yeah, it's being a little careless though, because it's not using its correct. It's not using its correct nav mesh sort of metrics for things. But it is actually. Anyway, if I get stuck somewhere, let's just not look at that guy, because they're probably gonna get stuck pretty soon. If I get stuck somewhere like this, I'm trying to get stuck here properly. I'm not really stuck here, but I can't at least like back up the place. You can either hold down the D-pad downwards key, which, as you can see, just kind of yanks me back up, back to where I came from. Or you can use the, I think it's the U button on the keyboard. The U button. I think this is a place where I can get stuck quite easily, actually. I just do this. And so now I'm kind of thoroughly stuck here. Can't get anyway. So let's hold down the U key, and you can see that it says preparing to get unstuck. You have to hold it like a little bit before it actually engages, and that's just to you know, prevent some like spamming of the feature for like a few milliseconds and then letting go and causing all sorts of weird things to happen because of that. Alright, so actually this mother vehicle managed to drive there quite well, so that's fun to see. If we ask it to do it now, it's probably gonna make a reverse turn, which is gonna be potentially disastrous. It's gonna get itself into like a real Austin Powers situation here. Or is it? Yeah, look at that. So these kinds of cases, we can annotate parts of the nav mesh as being like a no reverse zone, for example, and we can make it so that it's only the mother vehicle that doesn't try to make reverse turns. So that means that the mother vehicle can like back up, you know, like this, kind of like back away, rather than trying to make a reverse turn there, until it gets out of the tricky place, which would probably be like around here, and then it could make a reverse turn, and then it could continue its thing. It actually kind of looks like it does manage here. I'm like almost a little surprised, because oh yeah, look at that. That's the tire model issue that I spoke about previously, but yeah, it drives kind of like too close to those rocks now, and that's because it's not using the correct nav mesh. So I'm gonna have to give it a correct nav mesh. Anyway, let's see what happens if we ask the gripper truck to move here. We can fly here away and see what actually is going to happen. So this guy is now driving without any kind of sense of where the road is. It is quite simply just using the shortest path, which means that it's probably going to make a few questionable decisions, but it's actually kind of looking like the road is sort of like the only sensible path for it, so it kind of just happens to take that. But you can see that it kind of doesn't really like stay on the road, right? But actually it kind of manages pretty well. Look at that. But yeah, this doesn't really look all that all that good, right? If we leave it like this, players are gonna say our drivers are drunk drivers, if this is how they drive. So we're gonna have to tell the AIs how to actually drive on the roads a little bit. But yeah, let's see what else we can do here. Let's ask the scout to come here. Come on. Maybe like all the way here on the edge. Yeah, you can't fall off the cliff anymore. I've prevented that. So you don't need to be careful with that. And that covers just that's just the cliff that is the sort of the level boundary there. Yep, they actually drive pretty well these days. If we go down to the quarry, I'm pretty certain we're gonna be able to get them into a place they can't quite come out of. Can you? Oh, not mother, but can the scout Can you find a way here? Yeah, it says, I don't think I can get over there, and that's probably because like this place is most likely blocked here. But if we ask it to come here, it can probably get there. And indeed it can. So yeah, it doesn't really look all that natural when they don't know where the roads are. Nothing is actually scored properly. We can even drive from this. We can even drive from this camera perspective and have it sort of follow us around. Overlord the 7th asks, have you ever played with some neural networks? I did play a little bit with the machine learning stuff that came with Unity. They had some pretty cool things actually. Some like reinforcement learning stuff. Where they thought some... there was a game that kind of looked a little bit like Wipeout or like F-Zero or whatever it's called. Oh, I don't know what it's doing now. Yeah, I made a stupid reverse turn there for some reason. Anyway, they thought some agents there in the Wipeout looking game to drive using reinforcement learning. So they started off by just being super bad at the game, and then with time they learned to be actually quite good at driving the track. So I was kind of like convinced that okay, yeah, I'm gonna be able to use this. Well, not that exactly, but something kind of like that in this game. I'm not using Unity, so I couldn't have used that exactly. But I was thinking that yeah, I can do something like that. But it's a little bit black boxy for me. Yeah. So now look at that guy. That was kind of stupid of you. You managed to get unstuck at least. That's kind of nice. Yeah. See, when nothing is actually scored here. They just drive wherever the hell they want now. But wherever they can find a path, they're gonna drive. And sometimes it's not a very good way, good sort of path to take. But if they can take it, if they have no other choice, then they will take it. But yeah, machine learning is, or neural networks, I should say, perhaps, is kind of interesting. But I don't think it quite simply it doesn't have you know the sort of designer tools. It doesn't give you the full range of tools to actually tweak the AI in such a way that you would want for a game like this. In what situation do you see MLs being good for a game? I don't know if they are. Yeah, I want to be very clear that I don't think that they are necessarily good for a game. I said that they're very interesting and they're cool. I don't know that they are necessarily good for a game AI, because like a game AI's objective is to provide like interesting and fun interactions, right, in the game. That's sort of like the idea. That is the thing that the game artificial intelligence is trying to solve. You know, it might provide you like challenges if you have, you know, enemy AI, or in the case of Traction Point, where you're not really fighting any enemies per se, at least not any like human enemies. You have these friends of yours that you want to be somewhat intelligent when they move around the place. That doesn't necessarily mean that they always, you know, do the most optimal thing, right? So if you do like a reinforcement learning, train a model using a reinforcement learning, it is going to kind of naturally tend towards the most optimal way of doing something, and that might look just very unnatural. Like the most optimal way of getting from one place to another in a game like this might not look very sort of human. You know, if you get what I mean here. And what I want these guys to look like is that I want them to look like they are actually humans driving. Except for this big one here, which is actually an AI in the sort of narrative of the game. And yeah, now you can see that there's some issues again because that poor guy doesn't have their proper nav mesh set up. So it's just gonna be super wonky and weird. So I don't know. Maybe there is something, but I'm not convinced, and that's why in the end I didn't pursue that idea for very long. Anyway, let's set up the roads now. And this guy, if I remember correctly, override nav mesh. There we go. So it's supposed to be auxiliary 1. So now if we run this and we ask the mother to come to us, it should basically tell us that I can't find a way, and that would be because we can't find the nav mesh, right? Maybe it does it even before that. Let's see. So mother move here. Yeah, no path to target. I don't think I can get over there. So we're gonna have to add that other nav mesh there for that to work. I've never really found racing games AI to be great at racing, and I wonder if it would be great for that. Not driving or car game, but racing. Yeah. I'm not necessarily the best person to answer this because I'm not making. Well, I have worked on a racing game back in the day for like the 360 and PS3, but I didn't really work on the AI for that. What is pretty cool, and I think there's a little bit of machine learning involved with it at least, is the drivatar things that. Is it Forza? If I remember correctly, Forza is doing some stuff with like. They have a system that they call drivatars that are like. I think trained on player data. Things like that. And so. It is some sort of model that they kind of continuously train using other players' data, stuff like that. And that sounds like it might actually be kind of nice. Hello, Aku. Welcome and good morning to you. Because it is always morning where Aku is. Do you play racing games? I play very casually, yeah. I used to be a big fan of Need for Speed back in the day. Not all that invested into racing games these days. Forza is using neural networks for the car AI. Yeah, I remember something like that. Whether or not that makes like, fun AI or like very good AI or whatever. I don't know. And I guess different people might have different kind of opinions on what kind of AI they want. Some people want their driving AIs to kind of mimic very skilled human drivers, right? And so if the drivatar gets enough data from human players that are very skilled as actual racing drivers, then I guess at least in theory that should make the drivatar AI skilled and kind of human-like. But like something like reinforcement learning, I don't think is probably not going to be very human-like at all, necessarily. Right, let's have a look here. AI, so what we want is a nav mesh polygon area, no, nav mesh area path. Here we go. There's actually a blueprint here for a racetrack, but it doesn't. It was never finished. Maybe I'll make a racetrack thing for like that for the for the sandbox mode at some point. Let's see if we actually have. Is this like? I'm trying to remember how this thing actually works. So if we add this to, we can call this main road, right? Main road. And if we look at the, what's the component called? It's called area path. And we can see here that it's called basis : nav mesh area path component. This part here is a giveaway, which tells us that this is a C++ component. So let's have a look at the C++ side here. See how this thing works. How does it actually expect us to give the? How does it expect us to give the? Oh, I think I understand how this works now. So we need to give it, yeah, the child objects. So if we give it editor waypoints, for example, and we give it as child, so we make the main road the active parent here. Now we can just click away here. Actually, I'm gonna hide the nav mesh for a little bit. Let's not draw that for now. So here we can see the path starting to emerge. And so this thing will define where the main road goes, and then we can tweak it and fiddle with it as we need. And it creates like a continuous sort of line that goes through this, but it might be a little bit difficult to see because it's kind of like intersecting with the terrain a lot of the time. So what I typically do is I just move these points very slightly upwards when I have the overall path kind of done. We could also do some sort of, we could have some sort of offset to the rendering as well if we wanted to. Actually, maybe that is already possible. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think it is. So let's not worry about that now. So I think it's arguable that the main road is the one that like runs here and then runs down towards the actual warehouse, which is actually where the depot name comes from. So this house here, which is actually kind of like the most unfinished thing in the whole level, is the depot. Right, so it's basically that. And now if we take all of these guys and we move them upwards just a tad, to basically get like a continuous line that is much easier to see and mess with. And here we have one which is a little tricky to see, maybe still. Something like that. Jake says, yeah, for a game, I think you need to tweak too many things for machine learning to be useful. Yeah. So if you're working with a game, let's say you're an AI, you're a programmer working on a reasonably large game that has, that has designers and producers. And of course also artists and all kinds of people working on it. But for the purpose of this argument, in particular, it has designers that want to tweak the AI to be very fun. And you're working as an AI programmer on that game. This is not something that I've actually done, but this is kind of my take on the whole thing. At some point, the the gameplay designer is gonna go, hey, I was racing this one guy. Or it doesn't even have to be a racing game. But you know, I was playing the game and there was this one AI person that did this thing, which was kind of interesting, but I'd like to understand why they did it. If you have a machine learning based AI, your answer is most likely going to be, I don't exactly know why they did the thing they did, but it might be because of these and these things. And then the AI, or then the designer is going to go, okay, well, we can't have it do that thing. We need it to do this thing instead. And then you're going to be in a bit of a pickle, because you don't exactly know how to tweak the training to prevent the thing that you want the thing to do / not do. You also don't know exactly what to even if you, let's say, even if you knew what to tweak in the training, it probably takes quite a long time for the actual results to be visible, and you don't exactly know how to kind of verify that, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a guessing game, and that's not something that designers don't like that, producers don't like that, creative leads certainly don't like that. When you're like, I don't exactly know why this happens or how to fix it. So I think it would be kind of a hard sell to many people on the team if you had a machine learning AI model. I might be wrong though. I don't exactly know. Okay, so now we have the main road sort of like roughly laid out here. Now if we rebuild this thing, we should see the road. Hey. And now this road, this sort of red thing here doesn't need to be as wide. In fact, it probably shouldn't be as wide as the road itself, because this area that gets colored red, this is just supposed to be sort of like the path that they're aiming for. So it should be actually like this stuff is not very good. Let's see if we can get rid of this stuff. It also doesn't necessarily matter all that much because this is sort of like a scoring system. The red areas are technically like cheaper to drive along. You can almost consider it sort of like how much gas or battery life, if you have an electric vehicle, is it going to take to move from one area to the next. Then it is definitely going to be cheapest to go from this to this small, go all the way here and then continue. So it probably doesn't matter like a whole bunch, but we can maybe try to fiddle with it a little bit. Think like that maybe something that gives us a slightly better result. Actually, it doesn't. Yeah, let's not worry too much about that right now. We can fiddle with it later. We also have a slightly similar thing here. I bet this has something to do with the fact that we have this sort of small kind of like threshold that you're gonna be driving over here. Don't exactly know why that kind of cuts off the AI road though. But it doesn't exactly matter either, because like this is clearly still the cheapest way to drive. If that makes sense. Yeah, this part looks very good actually. So let's try this. Let's see if the truck there close to the depot gets to you sort of like in a more intelligent way now along the road. So we're gonna be flying over here. We're gonna be asking the truck move to us, and now it should be hopefully driving along the road nicely and intelligently, and not do all of that super wonky drunk driving business it did last time. And you can see that stays much more in the middle of the road. It doesn't try to take these kind of like small shortcuts that might actually lead it to trouble. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Isn't that nice? And it no longer goes like over here. It just stays on the road instead, because the road is the cheapest way to cheapest place, cheapest path. To drive along. Nice. Hello. That's pretty cool. So now then, what would happen if we asked it to come here? I don't know if we really need to annotate this place like a whole bunch. It's not as large as some of the other areas in the refinery level. But still we can ask it, hey, come to me, and now that thing should have like plenty of room there to make a reverse turn. So we need to just annotate this area to make it so that the mother vehicle doesn't try to do any reverse turns here, and that should be quite fine. So here is like technically sort of like a junction, because you have the main road running along here, of course, but then this is also kind of like a natural place to drive. But I don't know if we need to actually annotate this in any way. Might just work completely fine. Like this area might be one of those places where they can just kind of like choose how they want to go about driving around here. So that might be completely fine. With the quarry though, we're gonna have to fiddle with this a little bit. I think we might actually just want to use those polygons to map out this area completely. That might be a good idea. But let's go on a road trip with our friend, the gripper truck. And let's see how they manage to move around the place. Oh, what happened? Oh, he's stuck. Why are you stuck? Oh, that's better. Yeah, okay, well that was a little sort of risky to drive like that, but okay. Okay then, so now we're back on the road. There should really be no question about how it wants to drive here. It prefers the road. And that's nice. Yep. Alright, cool. Right, so now that we are here, let's position the camera in a somewhat useful position, like this, and ask the gripper truck to come there, and we can see how it does. Alright, so it's driving around along the road, but yeah, here you can actually see, yep, okay, that's bad, but I have a solution for that. But that is like a typical classical problem when it comes to areas like this, because what happened here, and we can see if we can reproduce this issue pretty sure we can actually do that. Having the road set up like this means that it tries to be on the road for as long as possible, because the road is the cheapest way to get around, like we discussed. Ask it to come here. And so, like, if you're kind of looking at my vehicle here, it kind of goes like this because the road runs like this, and then it continues there towards the depot, and then it goes, okay, so now I've stayed on the road as long as I can. Okay, and again it's stuck there, so I'm gonna have to fiddle with that a little bit. It tries to stay on the road as long as it can, and then it takes like a pretty sharp turn off the road, and then kind of runs into this fence here. And now it tried to avoid me, and got into a little bit of trouble there. And yeah, kind of same thing there. Like it tries to it's very eager to get back onto the road, and that kind of that means that it gets into a little bit of trouble because it shouldn't be making a very sharp turn there. And we can see probably the same thing again. Like it doesn't drive like a human would drive. Like that's a stupid path to take. You know. Instead of driving along the main road as far as it can, it should just start turning here and driving along this path here. And now it's actually properly stuck. Ah, stupid. Stupid person. We can see here if we turn on the... Oh, I need to be running on the main thread. Okay. Yeah, now it's just stuck. That's not good. Yeah, let's fix that. Let's shut this down. I'm gonna add another... actually, we can... Oh, I need to... Yeah, okay, I need to completely restart the editor for this. I'm gonna add another flag here, which will allow us to debug the AI brains of these guys. So let's add a flag called server thread false. And if we run it with server thread false, it means that the server in the client server sense runs on the main thread, which means that we can use all of the debugging functionality that only runs on the main thread currently, and that includes the debugger, so we can actually see sort of like the paths that they are planning to take and all of that. So let's have a look here. If we load the things in, we can go like, okay, Scout, please, where are you? Now Scout is approaching from over there, but we can now debug its AI brain, and we can see all the decisions it wants to take. Actually, it has just one item there in the log so far. I wonder what that text there is. It looks like it's kind of being cut off, but whatever. Yeah, now it is at the destination, so it's not like it wasn't actually super interesting what it did this time around. But if we ask it again, it is. You can see that it's doing like a reverse turn, and then it figures that the reverse turn is complete, and then it does its thing. So if we did this with the truck just previously, it would probably have said something about being stuck and trying to get unstuck, and possibly having issues getting unstuck. Sure thing. Which way is it gonna come though? Right, we need to actually debug this guy if we want to see its full path. We can see the whole path that it's going to take, or that it is planning to take. Yep, alright. So now if we go back there and do that thing again, we should see the pretty stupid path that it is excited to take. Now with the server running on the main thread, we should even be able to visualize the nav mesh here in the game if we want to. So let's just do that as well. Now if I fly up here, we can see that we essentially like need to map this to be all road as well, right? That is going to give us what we need. So gripper truck, and yeah, it kind of tries to stay in the road for this long when it should already start doing it here, and then that leads it into trouble. And then it does this, and then it gets stuck. I seem to be stuck before my reverse turn to get unstuck, but then for some reason the ground here is kind of tricky, so yeah, reverse turn failed to complete, and then it tries to do it. And then basically what it does is that it gets even more stuck, the poor thing. This is interesting. I don't think I've ever been quite this stuck. You can see that the gripper claw is even sort of like kind of penetrating the fence here, even though there should be physics objects here. Yeah, it's just completely stuck now. Just completely stuck now, the poor thing. Okay, let's fix this thing though. So let's call this something like quarry entrance or something like that. And this is an editor tool that runs completely in-game code, which means it uses ImGUI UI. And we can see that, okay, we have some points that we need to place. How do we place those points? Maybe we'll quite simply mark all of this area as being road, like this. But then I want to be kind of careful here, because I could see that they actually got stuck on this side here. So let's keep. Oh, actually, yeah, let's not do that. Let's make it much tighter. So I'm gonna mark. I'm gonna mark probably something like this. That can be road, and then we can have road all the way to there. But then I think the road should be actually much tighter than that. There should only be road sort of like in the middle of the actual sort of visual road, or physical road. We can move these guys actually probably even closer. Let's move that there. Let's move that there. Yeah, let's see what this gives us. Something like that, and then polygons. We add a new polygon and we start assigning points to it. And then now we need to click them in order to assign the points to the polygon, and then it will form sort of like a closed loop. It's a little bit wonky, this tool, but it actually works kind of nicely. So now we can see we actually have a little bit of height and everything to it. And so let's go there, move this maybe make this a bit tighter still. And we can see here that the path here should actually sort of only like really map to this lighter part in the middle of the road. So I think this is actually kind of what we want. Let's bring it something like that. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, the width of these lines aren't necessarily even, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't have any sort of like significance. It's just like my rendering is a little bit wonky, so no need to worry about that. Okay, so we accept that, and then we set this to be road, like so. And now if we rebake the light map. Not the light map, but the nav mesh. We should get nice road areas there as well. And you can see that we do, and that's nice. And we also get a little bit of like non-road area here, so they should be a bit more careful with how they actually approach this. Drive around those basalt pillars there. So that's nice. Okay. What about this place then? Maybe we'll do another one there. So we'll do another one of those. And this would be like quarry station. And it's also a road. And we can add some points here to begin with. Maybe just something like that. Not try to be super fancy with that. Let's make the color something else. Green is good. Maybe it needs to be a bit more saturated though. And assign points. So there we go. And then we can make this a bit more tight if we need to later on. That's good. Let's accept that. And then here I'm gonna probably want to, you know, design this quite thoroughly, but I don't think I'm gonna do it now because this building is gonna change still. It's not gonna remain quite necessarily as plain and basic as it is now. So I think we're gonna probably leave it like that for now. Now mesh main, we can build this guy. And here we can see, oh, what happened here? That's interesting. I don't know why it kind of determined that this entire piece here is supposed to be a road, but I don't think that even matters all that much. I think that's probably quite okay. We can fiddle with it later if we need to. We don't really need to do anything here. That's probably all good. And here, if we want the cars to be a bit more careful around these rocks, we could see previously here that it actually the truck took a slightly kind of risky path here close to this rock here. What we can do is actually paint a little bit of road, you know, in this valley. So let's call this like Valley Road. And we can make it road or we can make it minor road. I don't think it really matters all that much. Let's just make it road. And go in and plonk down some points here. important part here is that we sort of like center this approach to the middle of this opening, this area here, so that they don't try to take like some crazy shortcuts that are just gonna like lead them to ruin and misery. And I always kind of feel like this looks like a wizard's hat. Like these junctions tend to look like wizard hats. Should we give that another color as well? Blue or something. That's fine. Like so. That's probably fine. This place is this sort of, I don't know what to call this, almost like a small ramp here is something that I usually take when I drive. I come from here and I want to go to the tunnel over there. I just drive here, but I don't think like the AIs should necessarily do that, so we don't necessarily need to like design this area nav mesh wise in any way. We just leave it as it is. Okay, so we have some weird nav mesh generation crap going on here. I don't exactly know what that is. Stuff like this doesn't usually matter at all. It might just be that it's the visualization that comes out of recast. But of course we can try to fiddle with this a little bit if we want it to look a little nicer. Things like that just tend to annoy me to no end when I look at it for too long. Now you can see that it looks nicer. So yeah, I should maybe mention that I'm using recast and detour for all of the nav mesh stuff here. I'm just driving it through my own editors and whatnot. But it's all recast and detour. Here's one thing that we might want to also have a look at. Like the truck got a little stuck here, driving too close to this one. If we want to, we could add a minor road section here and sort of like try to help them drive a bit more carefully around that thing. Maybe we'll do that just as a fun little thing, and then we can see how that actually, if that helps. So we're gonna add another nav mesh area path, and let's call that like the derailment loop or something. I don't know what to call it. Something. And then we need to add that as the parent, and we can put down a few of these points here, like this maybe. They're really tricky to see, so we're gonna have to move them up. And there's the path. Something like that maybe. Make it a little less tight if we can. Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need that one. Maybe we do. Something like that maybe, and then we'll make that a road minor. Sometimes these paths help, sometimes they just make things even more confusing and tricky. So I'm gonna want to be a little careful with that. What I find is kind of confusing and annoying as well is the fact that you have all these like nav meshes or like waypoints. These are called waypoints all over the place. You don't exactly know what they refer to, especially when like you don't actually see the path. If we hide that, and then we also hide the nav mesh like that. Now we don't exactly know what these are, so I tend to just hide those guys so I don't accidentally break the whole thing by moving them. But now if we go here and we build this thing, it should still have this little path here, which again may or may not help, so we'll see if we actually leave that there. Right, so I'm thinking we're gonna do the same thing now that we did previously with the truck, and we're gonna see if these things that we added will actually help it navigate this area. Yeah, we get some weird sort of like tessellation going on here with these areas. I don't think this matters really at all. We can verify that it actually takes this path as it should. Some of these can be a little annoying to look at. You can also make the thickness a bit larger, make the thing a bit thicker, and build. And sometimes that fixes it, but like I said, it doesn't really matter technically. It changed it at least a little bit. But I don't think we'll actually want that. We might even want to make it a bit thinner, because this is supposed to be a kind of a small, tight road anyway. So we want to keep it actually kind of tight. And here we can see we have some breakages here in the road, in the red path. That doesn't mean that the path can't be taken. It just means that like if we have a breakage in it, like here for example, the system is still gonna find a path to this point and then sort of jump here and then continue that way. And obviously there's no like physical like blockers or anything like that, just because you have those breakages there, so they're completely fine. That doesn't matter. Okay, let's try this and see what happens. So I think the first thing that I'm gonna want to do is I'm gonna want to ask the scout number 2 to come to me. We can make sure that it actually takes a sensible path. Let's pause the game and enable the brain debugger for that guy. And we can see here that yep, looks pretty good. I don't actually even remember where is that weird breakage. It is over there. Yeah, so we can see that it quite clearly gets a sensible path out of that anyway. So no need to be worried about that. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. And yeah, you can see here that these guys are actually, they have something that I call dynamic nav mesh obstacles, which means that like if we drive slowly enough around, you can see that the car actually cuts a hole into the nav mesh. That just means that other agents are gonna try to drive around these guys, because there's literally a hole in the nav mesh there. If you drive fast enough, it kind of just disables that thing, because like there's no point in retessellating the nav mesh, because by the time anyone's gonna be there where there was a hole, the car is just gonna be somewhere else anyway. So it just removes the obstacle for it completely, and then when you slow down, it again cuts a hole into the nav mesh. And all of that works beautifully. I'm happy to see. So let's run the same tests now with that gripper truck and see what happens. Actually, I think we started over here, so let's go here. Let's order it to come to us. I'm gonna ask it to come to the other side of that mother vehicle. So over here, thank you very much. And then we'll go have a look at how it does. How it is doing. So it's following the road like a champ. Get rid of those render options. And now we've annotated this thing a bit more, so it should kind of try to stay there on the edge of that road, and it does. It kind of drives the road to till the end. Oh, it actually took this minor road thing that we added here, which makes actually perfect sense. It went that way. That actually makes perfect sense. I don't know if that is what I actually wanted to do though, but we'll see about that. Let's ask it to come here. Blip. So it needs to do a few reverse turns. It's quite a tight spot now with that mother vehicle standing there. Yeah, that looks pretty okay though. So what about if I ask it to come here? Is it still gonna take that minor road around the derailment? Or is it gonna come just straight to me? I'm sort of hoping it will come just straight to me. Yeah. So it's figuring out that okay, that path is the shorter one. Yeah, I think this works. I think this probably works. Now it just manages to navigate this area much better than it did previously. It also doesn't drive too close to these rocks anymore, because there's like a clear sort of entry point into this whole road, and it's right here in the middle of this valley. So it's pretty handy in that way to have these junctions here. Just sort of like if you want to drive on the road, just drive to this point, which is like the tip of that wizard's hat there, and then you know once you've arrived at that point, then you can just follow these areas. And they tend to kind of naturally just want to drive to the tips of those because they're cheaper, right? So now that we're here, we can again ask it to drive to us, and now it should be much better at handling this area here, right? Shouldn't really be an issue anymore. But we'll see. I think I can already drive up there and see how it does the U-turn there. If we ask it to drive to the station. Oh, I'm gonna want to go out of the way so I don't mess up its approach. Yeah, look at that. Now it just took it much better. No longer got stuck there. And it's also more careful with this place now because it has this piece of road down there, which is gonna cause it to try to stay in the middle again. So I'm mostly curious how it's gonna handle this place now. Kind of looks like it might do it. Yeah. So here we actually have an issue, I bet. Like, I haven't seen it yet, but I bet it's gonna be an issue. Like here, if we want it to drive to us now, and we turn off the nav mesh, right? This looks like it can just easily just drive something like this over this slight patch of grass here, and then just go that way. But since the nav mesh actually looks like this, it probably tries to like make a very sharp turn here and then do that. And so that's probably going to cause some issues, and we're going to have to probably annotate this a little bit. So let's do gripper truck, come to me. Oh, actually, yeah, we even have a... Actually, it kind of manages, but I bet the path that it wants to take looks wonky as all hell. Let's verify that thing. Oh, I have free camera on here. That's why it doesn't work. So we can see the path that it wants to take. The path that it wants to take and the path that it takes doesn't always, you know, map one-to-one because of you know how these vehicles move. Yeah, so you can see that this path is kind of wonky here. We should really map out this triangular area here as being traversable. Oh, and it has a little bit of an issue there doing that reverse turn, but it's probably going to manage. It's just going to take a little while. We can see here in the log that it's like I seem to be stuck, performing reverse turn to get unstuck, and then the reverse turn fails because it's sort of like inside of a pit, and so it kind of doesn't feel like it's getting out of it. Yeah, look at this. This is not going to be stupid. And now it probably needs to do... Actually, it managed. Yeah, didn't need to do a reverse turn, but it was pretty close that it would have to do it. So let's fix that up as well by using an area, and I think we can just expand that area there. Why not? So that would be the quarry station. Let's delete that one. Delete actually all of the points. I'm gonna assign some new points instead. The points should probably look something like this. Something like that. Then we add a new polygon to this one. Oh, we need to click assign points. Like so. Like that. And now, that should be better. Yep, that's much better. That's much better, but I could maybe even make it a little wider there. Why not? Just by moving this guy. Something like that, maybe. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, and I bet this area is gonna be kind of tricky to get working really well. But we'll take it when we get to that. I'm not there yet with the whole level design, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, so at the bottom of this quarry, we could add a little bit of annotation here as well, but I'm not really sure we need that. This place is going to be a little tricky anyway, because we have these basalt pillars that are such that you can get stuck on them quite easily. So it kind of remains to be seen what we want to do about that. But I think, like, regardless of what we add here, the main thing is that when you want to get out of this place, you're gonna want to like aim for the beginning of this road area here. And if you can get to this road area, then you can just follow it. So I don't think like we need to add a whole bunch more there. I may be wrong. May have to do something like that after all, but I think I'm gonna leave it like that for now. So that should make the quarry kind of nicely behaving. We're gonna test this out still, but I'm gonna see, do we have any other areas here that we need to really annotate? I don't really know if we do. Like this beginning area here, like I said, we need to make it so that the mother vehicle doesn't try to make any reverse turns here. I'm gonna tackle the mother vehicle after this. So I think what we're gonna do still for this is I'm gonna test this new quarry stuff that I just added, and after that we're gonna do the mother vehicle. So add the mother vehicle nav mesh area or nav mesh first of all, and then annotate that beginning, and we're gonna try to put it into some tricky situations so that it will have to like back up all the way up to here basically, and then it can start doing reverse turns again, and we'll see if it can actually manage that. And then once that is done, we're gonna end by doing those gates. Make sure that the gates work, so that if we close the gates, they should go like, I can't get there because I can't find a path, right? And then if we open them back up, they should do it again, basically. But let's see how this new quarry stuff now works with the truck. So let's debug the brain. We can see, yeah, that looks reasonable, I think. So I'm probably gonna want to get. Oh, it drove into the yeah. It's a downward slope, so it probably had issues braking, but it could resolve it kind of nicely, so that's nice. If there are dynamic objects in the way of these guys, they try to avoid them by just ray casting. Sometimes that can put them into a little bit of a panic mode if they try to avoid something and then they drive off the road or something. So I'm gonna want to be a little bit careful with that, how that actually works. Actually, I was supposed to go up there towards the monorail and see how this actually now behaves. So if we now ask it to come to us, we can see that okay, now the path makes a whole much more sense, right? And now we can probably see that it's gonna get a little stuck there again, trying to make that reverse turn. But we'll see if that actually happens. Actually, not really. Just had to do it in a few takes. That actually worked out quite fine, quite well. Let's have the scout come here as well. Hello, scout. Join us for a little bit of driving, would you? Here we can see the interplay between two AI agents trying to like not run into each other, but at least the scout wasn't very good at actually doing that. It just drove right into the back of the truck. But the scouts are so fast that they kind of have a little bit of issues sometimes actually braking when they realize too late that it's gonna be a problem, and then just like human drivers actually. So Scout, come here. Let's see how do you navigate this stuff? Oh, now it's gonna. Yeah, all right. Almost got a little bit stuck there. Not quite. Let it come there, and then on the way down, we ask it to come to the station. Yeah, both the Scout and the truck, they tend to just drive into that fence on the way down. They're sort of like too excited. They have too high velocity, probably too high speed. I have to drop off. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, have a good stream. Have a good stream. See you later. Alright, so this seems to work really well. If you want more game dev after my stream ends, go check out Jake's stream. Jake, who just wrote in the chat there, he's doing a game dev, an indie game, a very similar kind of solo game dev project. So go check out his stream afterwards if you want more of this kind of laid back, solo-ish game dev stuff. Cool, guys. Okay, this works, I feel, well enough for now. So I'm gonna go get a glass of water, and then we're gonna continue with the mother vehicle. And this is gonna be perhaps the most scary and glitchy part of this whole thing, because this vehicle still needs a little bit of work on the physics side, and it also is just like way too big for its own good, so it might just get stuck everywhere. Let's see how that turns out. If you have any questions so far with this, how this stuff works, do let me know in the chat. I'm open to just answering any and all things that you want to know. But I'm gonna go get a glass of water. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Alrighty then. So, I did a diff here on the whole nav mesh data side previously in the stream, between the main nav mesh and the mother vehicle nav mesh, and it kind of looks like the sort of the most important changes are these. Agent height is much high. It's a much higher agent. The max climb is probably higher. I think this is probably higher than the default value, and then the agent radius is also just much bigger. Those are the main differences, and then we register it with a different runtime registration ID, which just means that the mother vehicle can then actually identify the nav mesh it's supposed to be using. So, nav mesh, another one, let's add it here, and we'll call it nav mesh mother, and we need to register it with the second one, which is the auxiliary one registration ID, like so. And then you can see here the agent height is 15. The agent radius is 10. And the agent max climb is 1.5. And let's bake that. I'm gonna hide the main one. I'm gonna show the mother vehicle one. And we can see what is going on with this guy. Where can it actually drive? I'm hoping that it actually won't be able to drive. Oh. I think I probably forgot something. Didn't I? It's rasterizing tiles, but it's probably doing it for like a whole bunch of unnecessary crap out there on the plane. Yeah, this might be this might be bad. This might be bad. Luckily, I have saved the level. You can see here in the log that I just saved the level, so that's fine. Okay, actually, okay, yeah. So what we want to do here is actually we want to copy the position of that, and then we want to probably also copy the bounding box size for it, like so. Yeah, we're not seeing anything though, so let's build that again. Hopefully this should now be a bit better. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so it probably like just baked, you know, all of this stuff out here, which is like not even traversable, so makes no sense to do that. So okay. Yes, this is one thing that I wanted to see, and we can actually see here that the mother vehicle is actually too big for this tunnel. We have some sort of partial pieces of nav mesh here on this side. We technically don't need that. So what we can do, if we want to be smart about it, is that we just make it actually quite a lot smaller, I think, in the z-axis, along the z-axis, like this. Not quite that small though, a little wider still. Yeah, that's better. Because we don't need any nav mesh for the mother vehicle there on that side. It's never gonna get there. Doesn't fit there. If it accidentally ends up there, it's gonna be in a lot of problems. It's gonna be in a world of hurt. So that's better. That's better. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting though. You can see here that like this place is almost too narrow for the whole thing. So that's not great. We might want to just bring that agent radius down by like maybe 1 world unit to give it a bit more leeway here. Something like that. I think that's probably for the best. But we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. So, now if we run the game and we ask the mother vehicle to come to us in the beginning, it should be able to do it. But then if we ask it to you know, drive back, it's gonna be in big trouble. So we can see what happens. Let's pause the game and visualize that nav mesh. So it's number 1. And here we can sort of see if we toggle these two, you can see sort of that there's quite a lot of space actually here that the mother vehicle can't navigate. Yeah, this looks pretty decent so far. How is it gonna actually take this part? Yeah, it just works fine. Absolutely fine. No problem. No problem at all. But now if we ask it to drive back, it's just gonna crap itself. It's gonna try to make a reverse turn and then it's gonna get stuck. Or it's not actually, it's not gonna get stuck, but it's just gonna, you know, very unnecessarily do reverse turns. So actually here is a slightly sort of wider place where it can actually probably make that reverse turn. Yep. But I still don't think it should do it there, because there might be some more stuff that's coming here. I think it should actually just back up the path if it happens to be facing that way. Yeah, and now it no longer tries to take this path because it has the actual information for where the road goes. Now if we drive into the... Oh, I'm actually probably well and stuck now, aren't I? No, I'm actually not. Right, if I try to ask it to come here, it should go, yeah, I can go there. But if I try to ask it to come here, it tells you I can't find a way there, so that works. It now realizes that, okay, I've got a path there. So that's kind of neat. I also think that if it now drives here to the entrance of this tunnel, we can maybe bring it even a bit further, a bit closer to it. It should also not try to make any reverse turns here. It should also, or it should do the same thing it does there on the other side and just like back away from this place. So mother, move here. Can't find a way there. Okay, can you find a way maybe to there? Yep, that works fine. Okay, well it kind of considers itself to be close enough to that. But now if I ask it to come here, it's probably going to try to make a reverse turn again. Which may work out, but it also just may not. It might just put itself into an Austin Powers situation. Yeah, which it kind of does. Yeah, this is stupid. So we need to annotate that place as well. That's completely fine. And I think that in the other level, I have a layer called zones. Isn't that how it actually works? Zones, yes. Drive slow zones. And no reverse turn zones. Alright. So, let's add some zones here for ourselves. Oh, actually I have a zones. I have a zones layer here already. So no reverse turn zones. I think is probably just a folder. So let's add it here as well. And then drive slow zones if we want that. So if you're wondering what this text stuff that I'm looking at is, this is just, I just opened another level in a text editor because these files are just JSON files. And I sort of do the same thing here with this level. So zone. A gameplay zone is a sphere, an AABB, or okay, a sphere or an AABB. So this is going to be a sphere, I think. Actually, maybe we'll make it an AABB, an axis aligned bounding box. That might actually make sense. more sense here. So yeah, no reverse turns and mother only. Only concerns the mother here. Other vehicles are free to make reverse turns. They are small enough that that's not going to be an issue. Yeah, that's way too high. Let's make it 30 maybe. And then 100 as well. No, that's way too much. 50. So I think, like, regardless if I rotate this or not, this is axis aligned, so it is going to stay unrotated. So let's just have one there, and maybe another one, I don't know, here. Let's make that a little bit wider. That's absolutely fine. I wonder if we should do maybe one more and have that set to be a sphere, just to sort of cover this area here a bit more. I think that's probably pretty good. Now here's one thing. We have a blocker here that kind of cuts off this. So I think we should actually also have a nav mesh blocker here. Blockers don't actually automatically block nav meshes, which is a little strange, maybe. Maybe they should. But they don't currently do that. So let's copy that, transform, apply it to that. I'm gonna add just like a mesh here that is not going to... How should we actually do this? Because we don't want the mesh to be there at runtime. Let's actually add this to the nav mesh roads layer. I'm gonna... Whoa, what happened there? Okay. I don't know what is happening. There we go, nav mesh roads, okay. Wow, my level objects control somehow completely broke there for a second. But okay, so let's call this like nav mesh blockers or something like that, and bring that into there. And I'm gonna make it probably like 30, and let's make it 10. It only needs to be high enough to block the nav mesh here, and it clearly does that now, so that's completely fine. And then I'm gonna hide it. And now if we rebake the nav mesh, we should have a cut here. Yeah, there's a cut, and also this one. Have a smaller cut in this one. And we do, so that's good. Yeah. We can call that something like level boundary blocker or something like that. Maybe like road boundary blocker. That's just to make it a bit easier to see here in the level editor where that actually like blocker is. Okay, excellent. So now I think if we we ask the mother vehicle to come back, it should actually back up this way and then make a reverse turn there, which is better. Let's add one more zone here to this area. That's a bit too large. Maybe make it like 70. 70 looks kind of reasonable, I think. 50. 50 also is kind of reasonable. 50 is a bit too wide, maybe. Yeah, that looks better. Something like that. And this is also a no reverse turn zone, and it's mother only. So that should be good. We'll also make it a driving speed multiplier zone. So we actually give it like a multiplier value here, which tells the agents to drive fast or slow. And we can make this area here be like a drive slow area, which could perhaps prevent them from driving into the or sliding into the fence there if we really want to sort of prevent that from happening. But we'll see. We'll see if we actually want to do that. So let's try this. Let's try this and see what happens. So what we want to do just now is ask the mother vehicle to come here and then ask it to go back. And hopefully it will just reverse until roughly this place, and then it will make a reverse turn and be on its merry way. Alright, so there we are, and then mother move here. And now it should just back up. It should not try to do any reverse turns, which it looks like it is doing. Nice. We can maybe even see it here. Wanted to do a reverse turn in no RT zone, enabled reverse mode. So it's reversing until it gets out of the reverse zone, right? Which should be right about now. There we go. No longer in RT zone, back to normal driving. Now makes a reverse turn. Look at that. Like a champ. Like a champ. Predicted a hazard in the trajectory. Kind of technically kind of like drove into the hazard a little bit there, but you know. Close enough. Okay, that's neat. So we should now be able to do the same thing. If we get it to come pretty close to this entrance here, move here. Can't find a way there. That's too close. Maybe here. Yep, be right there. Somewhat overdriven there. Right, so now if we ask it to come to us, it will again wanted to do reverse turn in no RT zone, enable reverse mode until it gets roughly here. Now it does a reverse turn. Yeah, that thing could technically even be larger, but I think this is maybe okay. It has to do a few reverse turns there, but I don't want to make that zone like too large. It doesn't really make any sense to have it be super large. Cool, and we just very handily managed to get stuck here, which means that we can use the unstuckifier to get unstuck like this, and that's nice. Okay, so then we have the last piece of the puzzle that I figured we would do for this stream is make it so that these gates here are actually you know, taken into account when finding paths. So if you ask the gripper, not the gripper truck, but the scout to come to us like this, but then we close the tunnel gate, we can most likely see that it just drives into the gate because it's confused about it. Boom. And like now it doesn't know what to do. Because it's like, what? There's a freaking obstacle there. What do I do? And like technically what is happening here is that it's detecting dynamic objects in front of itself. Those doors are dynamic objects. You can see these sort of so-called whiskers being red there in the front because it's like, oh no, there's like a box or a vehicle or something in front of me, and then it tries to drive around it, but of course it then figures that, oh, there's actually like a wall there, and then it does this thing over and over again and looks stupid doing it. So we can't have that. We need to make it more intelligent. And the way we can do that is by coming here and adding some obstacles. So scripted nav mesh obstacle. We can add one to this, and we can see here that we have some commented out code which I actually took from that other level there. So we used to have an object called level object lift station main gate sliding door 1 nav mesh obstacle remove. And so we send it a message called remove or add when we want to actually add them or bring them back. So let's add an obstacle to this guy. And where is that obstacle gonna go? Let's copy that transform and then probably move it to around there, because that thing is a sphere. It has a radius of 5, which may be enough. I don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens. So that would be that. We can just call it nav mesh obstacle. No numbers or anything. And then we'll copy paste that and we add another one to the other door. We call that nav mesh obstacle as well. And then we move that over here. So we have one on that door. That's that door, and then we have another one for that door. So the idea here is that when these two get activated, they should cut off this place here. And we can add at creation for both of them, just to see if that actually happens, right? So let's have a look. See what happens here. Draw nav mesh. And we go here. And we see, yeah, it works just fine. Works just fine. So now we just need to script these guys to actually be added and removed when we're closing the gate like this. They should be added, and then when we're removing or opening the gate, they should be removed. And that shouldn't be very tricky, because we can do this. We can do nav mesh obstacle, and we only need on message. We're gonna want to remove the add at creation here, like this, because by default this gate is actually open. So if message is add, then self add to nav mesh, else if message is remove from nav mesh. That's that. And then we do the same thing for that one. And then we need to send those messages. So let's do self send message and level objects quarry tunnel entrance double door left nav mesh obstacle and remove. And then we do the same thing with this, but we do add like so. We can remove those commented out things there. And then I need to do the same thing for the other door. This would be double door right instead. And add, right? And there we go. That should be it. Whoops, clicking off the game there. So let's show the nav mesh once again. And we have the other one as well, which doesn't go all the way there, so we don't need to concern ourselves with that one. Now it's open and we have passage through this thing. Now if we run the script close tunnel gate, look at that. It gets closed. And if we open it again, the path is now reopened. So we can see that, like, okay, it immediately gets reopened, even when those doors are still closed. And same thing, it immediately gets closed when the doors are still open. But yeah, I think it's probably good enough for this. So what we can ask now of the... Oh, we need to load the vehicles, of course. There we go. And we can maybe turn off the nav mesh drawing there. So we can ask, for example, the gripper truck, move here. And they say that they don't think they can find a way. Which is probably pretty good, because I just closed the gate. Alright. Gripper truck, move here. I don't think I can find a way. Then we do open tunnel gate. And what do you got? On my way. So now it can suddenly find a way. So it does work. Of course, like this is not how you would actually, you know, open or close those things. But for now, when we don't have the mission here, we can open and close them through this. Let's see what actually happens now if we close the tunnel gate now. Now look at that. Now it just stops right before the doors, because we closed the gate. And now it can go like, come to me, come to me. I don't think I can get over there. Well, what about now then? Look at that. You got a little scared of those doors, and that's why it kind of tried to avoid them. Well, that's neat. That is neat. Come here. Avoids the truck like a champ. Close tunnel gate. Come here. I can't find a way. Open tunnel gate. Now it can find a way. That's really nice. It just works. Except that now that guide got into a little bit of an Austin Powers situation once again. But it will probably figure it out. Not actually very good at figuring it out. No. What is happening? Debug your brain there for a bit. Yeah, that's a little stupid because like it clearly has space to back up a bit more, right? Like it doesn't need to be that concerned, but the problem here is that the nav mesh kind of ends there. Yeah, we do have some issues still, clearly. But they're kind of few and far between, so I'm not super worried. I think one thing that we should probably add to this AI is some sort of like infinite loop detection, which is something that I don't have. You know, this thing here now logs, you know, the things that it has actually done, and it should detect that, like, okay, if we are actually in an infinite loop now, there's probably something that you know we can do about that. That is going to help it actually recover from that. Whatever that is, kind of depends on what kind of infinite loop it is it finds itself in. But yeah. Come here. Just stop being a nuisance to the truck there. Yeah, today we're not gonna really write any AI code though. I kind of don't really have the mental energy for that today. So we're just gonna do this kind of content work today, I think. Anyway, I think that is pretty much everything I had planned for today. All in all, this works pretty well, actually, because this is a level that I've never had any AIs drive around in. I think what we managed to get done today is pretty good. There were no super big issues with anything, really. Not even with the mother vehicle, which is something that I was kind of nervous about, because it's kind of a tight play space in many ways. And the mother vehicle is just too good for its too big for its own good, too large for its own good in many situations. But even the mother vehicle manages to drive around this thing quite well, actually. As we can see here, kind of just works. Now that it has its own proper nav mesh, it doesn't do any overly risky maneuvers either. So I think that's pretty good. I think we're gonna basically start wrapping up this stream. Oh, now we got itself into a little bit of pickle. Did it not? I kind of think it shouldn't try to do any reverse turns there. How big is that no reverse turn zone? Yeah, we clearly need to make that zone a little bit bigger. Alright. Let's see about that. If we make it like 80 and then yeah, I think this is probably good. That's probably a better size for it. Oh yeah, like as is usual with my streams, we have quite a lot of discussion and commenting going on at the beginning, and then it kind of just like tapers off towards the end. But if you guys have any questions about this stuff that we've been doing today, I'm happy to answer any questions. Now would be the time to do that, because I think I'm gonna start wrapping up this stream pretty soon. It's getting pretty late. It actually ran for a bit longer than I originally anticipated. I was thinking this would be like a 2-hour thing, but we're over 2.5 hours now. We did, however, get basically everything done that we wanted, so I think I consider it a success in that case, or in that sense. Alright, let's see. Move here, so it should not try to do any reverse turns yet. Now we can see that it actually does not. It backs away a bit before it does that, which means that it doesn't get stuck there anymore, which is nice. That's nice. But yeah, if you have any questions, now's your time to ask them. And in the meantime, I'll say it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you want to play the pre-alpha versions of this game, check out the link in the chat to join the Discord server. You will find the pre-alpha 1 and 2 versions there on Discord. Upcoming pre-alpha versions will be delivered through Steam. We're not quite there yet. But yes, Discord is the place to kind of reach out and ask questions if you have any. And if you don't want to do that but you still want to support the channel, please consider subscribing, telling your friends if this looks interesting. There's been quite a lot of streaming lately, but I also occasionally do like other videos, more sort of edited videos. And I probably need to get back to doing that a bit more than I currently do. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be another stream relatively soon as well. Alright, where's that guy going now? It's coming this way for some reason. Oh, it just... Alright, I happen to be there when I kind of asked it to come to me. See if we can actually... If I come here and I ask it to come here, does it actually just straight up drive here? Yeah, looks like it does. Doesn't try to go back to the road or anything. Okay. Like there is a blocker here that prevents you from actually falling off this cliff, but it sort of like looks a little risky to be driving that close to the cliff there. Yeah, he manages it. So that's nice. Let's do one more test here and then end for today. So let's ask the guy to come here on my my way. It probably can't. Oh, actually, it can even come conceptually here. Let's make sure that it actually goes on this side of the track, not this side. And then when it has actually driven there, let's make sure it can actually get away from there. So I think the next thing that I will tackle specifically in this level is the mission. It's actually a single-player mission that is going to take place here. And for that we need the mother vehicle to get a new crane. So I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of crane work on stream pretty soon. Then I can actually start creating this mission. But I don't think I will show the actual mission to you guys on stream. You're gonna have to play the game to see it. It's gonna be pretty nice. But I will show all kinds of other things on stream. I have big plans for the sandbox mode as well, so I'll probably turn our attention to that after the crane business wraps up. Anyway, success. Mother vehicle didn't get stuck or do anything stupid. So that's great. This was a good stream. I got a lot of work done after all. Thanks to everyone who came to hang out today. Like I said, do check out the Discord server, do check out the channel if you just want to, you know, not necessarily join the Discord, but just want to stay up to date. Subscribing to the channel is a good way to do that as well. Let's hide those guys so I don't accidentally mess with them. Untick that, and I think we're basically done for today. Have an excellent rest of your weekend, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.